So welcome to Masterclass, all B School students. The idea of doing this Masterclass came to me from the fact that I've been writing cases for some years now and also being a judge on the panel. Who have observed certain patterns in the way the students have been solving the cases. There's some hits, some miss, and therefore it was. I thought it would be a good idea to actually put together certain steps. Obviously, it's never that we have only one way to skin the cat, but a certain guideline always helps. So what essentially it boils down to in Masterclass is how to solve a business case. I mean, that's what we're going to be discussing about. And why is it different from what the way we deal with, say, a problem in a theoretical and an academic situation. So the first thing that we need to take when you get a case, what should be your objective? What should be you looking at in that case? Is that what is the purpose of the case? Now, in real life, there are no direct questions. Nobody's going to ask you a question, Kibi, what is the positioning? And you have to tell them this is the positioning. In real life, most problems are hidden to such an extent that it is impossible to frame the problem statement itself. And if you can frame the problem statements, you've solved 50% of the problem. But that itself is very difficult because it is hidden under layers of data, layers of information, layers of research. It is always hidden. So we need to identify what is the real issue in the case that is trying to attract your attention. I mean, that's important. So why is this case being made? To attract your attention towards a particular aspect of business. So that's the thing that we should keep at the back of our mind always. So what should we do? First thing is, how does one read the case? It's an important thing. It sounds very basic, but there's certain things which are very, very important. First of all, read the case twice. Just keep reading the case twice without even trying to think of what you're trying to get out of the case. Why we say that is, it is important to get a lot of data or information into what you call, as we say, as RAM, or random access memory. Only once it gets onto your random access memory is that you can quickly start processing those information and trying to get interpretations out of it. So first two times, just read the case without even looking at what is the what output you are looking at. Third time, then start looking for what is the case trying to tell you, or what is the key issue in this case that is coming up. Now that's the effort that you should put it from the third time onwards. You can read it 3 times or 4 times, whatever you want. While doing so, from the third time onwards, start underlining maybe some of the key data, or starts underlining some key statements and understanding the case. It's always better to spend maybe a little extra time on understanding the case than getting into trying to solve it immediately, and then at a later date you realize, oh, you missed this fact and therefore the whole solution is gone topsy-turvy. So it's good to spend, because it can substantially cut down your time taken to solve the case. So it's good to spend some initial time. Once you have soaked in all the case facts and data, then you decide if you need any further research to be done. Because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of teams, they straight away say, oh, we did this research, we did that research, whereas the case had all the data in it and there was no need for any research. So, I mean, that's something which you need to do only if there are gaps that you're not able to answer based on the current case data, and it calls for research, then engage in research, whether primary or secondary. But otherwise, it's always advisable to stick to the case facts that's given to you. So Third thing, or the third point, is about identifying the key concept being tested in the case. I was talking about in the beginning. That's very, very critical, because unless we miss, if we miss that, then we are likely to get most of our solution, wrong. So what's the key? Write down, say, possibly 4 or 5 hypotheses. Like this case is trying to test A or B or C or D. So you would write all those hypotheses. Then based on the data that is actually being thrown up out there, we have to try and interpret it, and by elimination say, this doesn't look like what we are testing because there isn't any data or there isn't any hint towards it. These 2 or 3 look like possibilities. Funnel down. Once we have funneled down, then at the end of it, either pick 1 or 2 of those aspects and say, hey, this is what the case is trying to test us about. Now let's go deeper into the data and start figuring out how to substantiate this and how to get the final solution. That's the third step. Then comes what I would say is the most important step, and that's the step of data analysis. It's the most critical part. If you get this wrong, your entire analysis is gone for a toss, and therefore a solution is also going to be not what is expected. So what do we say? Making 1 or 2 of what if tables. That's the I would say the trick to doing this analysis. That we have to understand what are those variables which are being tested, as we saw in the second, say, point number 2 and 3, and then make what if tables so that you can put all the numbers there and get a very clear one dashboard kind of a picture of the entire case. Because there'll be some 20 tables or 10 tables all around, but you have to bring them down to 1 or 2 tables and make dashboard in front, which will help you in deciding, okay, what are those aspects that is being looked at in this. Look for hidden riders. In most of these cases, there would be some hidden riders. For example, in the case that we had in this current BLoC, there was a business plan to be done, then there was geography to be chosen, there was product categories to be chosen, but there was a small rider there which said that the company should not run out of cash in 3 years' time. What does that mean? That really means that when you put this solution, you may get a very efficient solution, but after you come out with it, you suddenly realize that, man, the money is getting over in the year 2. So these kind of riders you need to look at. Some of these riders can be very, very critical and can derail the complete solution. So that's important to look at these riders. Then look at the optimum key solution. That, for instance, in this current case that we had in this semi-final, was that we had to identify which geography should we be in for us to get the maximum bang for our promotion money. So take a particular amount of money, put it into all these boxes and see where it gives us the maximum return. Once we have done that, then you need to look at what is the quantum that you need to put in. For instance, I test the say matrix by putting in 10 crores. So for 10 crores, what is the max share or max revenue that I can generate? Once I've got it that in this box, I can generate the maximum revenue. This is the second maximum, this is the third. So I would either look at 1, 2, 3 or not look at the other. That's a decision that you've taken. Then you put what you call the pressure test on how much money should we put? Should it be 10 crores? Should it be 15 crores? Should it be 20 crores? Should it be 30 crores? At what money will I have enough money left for other aspects of the business, and I should not run out of money by end of 3 years? So that's the second part of looking at this matrix. Once we have done this analysis, we will have very clear answers to where should I invest. I'm talking about this particular case where we had to launch a particular soap in certain geographies. Where should we launch? Which category should we launch? How much should be the promotions money to be? How many outlets should be spread across in terms of distribution? All these things would come in. Then you would have other aspects like the manufacturing expenses. How much should we invest in capital? All these questions would also come. Once we have that certain solution, very critical step after that is data integrity. This is, I've noticed this, and in quite a few of the groups that we've have seen, there were groups which did fantastic amount of background work, and then suddenly 1 crore total advertising budget across India, leading them to get some 5% market share or 7% market share. So obviously, there's been some error in the logic over there. So checking the data and the solution integrity is very critical. It's not just about mistake. I mean, so how do you do it? You test it out from various angles. One would be from your calculation angle. Second thing, in terms of you see, okay, how many outlets am I reaching? Only 5,000 outlets. The total number of outlets in India is 6 million outlets which stock FMCG products. So 5,000 on 6 million, how does it ever give me that 5% share that I have got it? So these kind of checks and balances on the data has to be done, because it will never be very clear. A case study in a real life or a practical life is never going to give you exact data right within tables so that you can just look at it. So you will have to take those assumptions that how do I measure up? Is there a conflict between my solution and what usually would happen if I looked at the data without the solution? That's an important part, and we have to therefore be very, very careful about the data integrity and the solution integrity. So that was point number 5. After we have done that, we are ready to then start looking at the presentation. However, there is one important part which runs across various points, and that I would like to bring it out here, which is called the use of tools and techniques. Now, again, my observation is that a lot of teams, they use tools, almost force-fit tools into a solution because they have learned those tools, and they're very tempted to use those tools. And that's a pitfall one should definitely avoid, because tools are meant to help you, not become a crutch. I mean, if you become a crutch, then you are most likely to land up in the wrong place. And it has happened to a couple of teams. They've used the solver, they used various kinds of techniques and tools, and then therefore a tool is as good as what input you give. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you've given garbage in, the tool is going to throw up a garbage. When do you use a tool? When the data is extremely complex and large, and just by looking at the data, you are unable to solve or get a good idea in your mind about where is it leading. Then you use tools. But in most cases, the kind of case studies which would come in would not have that large and complex case sets. So what is the best tool? Your own common sense. You look at the data, and what comes across from your common sense as well, this is how it looks like, that's the best, because nothing else, no other tool can process data as well as your own head can. Tell the students that don't force fit any tools. The tools are meant to be used when extremely essential. Otherwise, they are as your ammunition that you got a hammer, you got a screwdriver, you got everything. That does not mean I keep using them all the time. They're there when it is required. So that's the important thing about how you use the tool. So the final step is then coming to the presentation. So when you're going to make the presentation, the steps, the kind of thing that you need to remember is very important. First of all, who are you presenting to? Very often, not just very often, in 90% of the cases I found, people start off by presenting about the company, what it is doing, what its history has been in this. Whereas the case very clearly said you are presenting to the board of directors of the company. And therefore, you wasted a couple of minutes, or at least within the 15 minutes, you wasted the first 4 to 5 minutes in trying to tell the board what they already know or what they have already created. Which also has the other effect that the board starts losing their attention span. They have a very short attention span. They start losing their attention because you are just telling them what they already know. So very important to know who you're talking to, because one of the important aspect of a presentation is to grab attention. You have to grab their attention, otherwise you're not going to get them to get involved and listen to you. The second thing is, before we start presenting the whole thing, state the key takeout from the case what you want. Like if we take the same final case that we had about launching the soap, the key takeout was which geographies should we launch, which segment should we launch, and how much of promotion budget should we put. And last thing was, what should be our manufacturing process, whether it should be from oil or whether it should be from soap. That was these were the key aspects. If you state it upfront and say, these are the things that we are going to solve for, and this is what we have solved for, then they know what to expect. And they are keenly looking for your solution, because they know, yes, these are the questions that are there in our mind too, and this is what we're going to get a response or answer for. There could be other aspects which you would mention, which has got to do with innovation, how do we innovate, and all of those are fine. But the key aspect that you have to talk about, you should always have in mind. And once you're presenting, I'll again find a lot of people putting up big Excel sheets right on there. There's no point in putting the Excel sheets, because the board cannot just look at those data out there straight away and process everything in those few seconds or 30 seconds or 1 minute that the slide is going to be there and understand what is happening. So that's totally avoidable. Do not put up those big Excel sheet, and also do not clutter the slide with so much information just because you want to keep it to 10 to 15 slides. That's what I've been told to you. You put some 5 slides information into one slide and make it so cluttered. Then the board doesn't know, or the audience doesn't know where to look at, what to look at, and how to decipher that that information. That's very important too. Give the key points. The way to present is put the key interpretation or a key finding. Put couple of data points to support as to why you think this is the solution or this is the interpretation that is there. And if at that point in time they want to go through any more depth or details of the data, then you should have a hyperlink to try and get onto the Excel sheet and show that this is what has happened and this is what we found. There again, it should not be raw data that you put. There should be what if kind of a thing. There is a very clearly you've done a what if where you have analyzed these aspects and you have certain solutions to it. Obviously, whenever you present some plan, initially the plan would be accepted on the basis of what you have presented. And anytime the plan goes to a senior management, the board, there is something called due diligence. So they are going to do a due diligence on your plan for data integrity and the solution integrity. That is going to anyway happen. So what we are going to present is the concept and idea of what the solution is. So keeping it crisp, keeping them engaged, and not overloading the slides with a lot of information is going to definitely leave the audience, whether it's the board or whether it's a senior management, with a certain set of information which they're able to carry, rather than going back seeing that there were lots of slides, there were lots of Excel sheets, but I don't know what I took out from that. That is the situation that we need to avoid. So finally, coming to once you've done your presentation, obviously, I mean, hopefully you've done all the presentation, and then at the end of it, you've concluded in a way that you've recapped what the key issues is, so that they go back with what really is the gist of this presentation. You would go to the stage where the question and answer, and this is another important aspect, where the board asks questions on a few doubts, or they also want to pressure test whether you have done enough background work for you to know that what you're talking about makes sense. During those kind of questions, it is very important to understand what they're asking and be to the point. I mean, that's something which is critical. Otherwise, the board starts losing confidence in your ability to have understood and done the analysis. So that's very critical, to the point, and answer exactly what they have looked for. If they have follow-up questions, they would ask follow-up questions. We do not have to go all around to try and capture the entire gamut of what possibly could be the thought process in their mind. Be to the point, follow-up questions, answer, follow-up questions, answer. You need to build confidence with the audience that yes, you know what you're talking, and you have done enough work for you to be able to answer all the questions. That's, in my view, the 7.5 steps to making a good, case solution and presentation. It would be, everybody can have a different variants of this, variations to this, but overall, if you follow these steps, 90% you are going to land up with the right solution. Hope this helps, and helps you in solving not only in these kind of competitions, but also helps you solve cases for you during your academic sessions. Thank you.